Hi, my name is Leah Chantel, and today I'm asking, should you try to manifest an ex back this Valentine's Day? Hi, my name is Leah Chantel. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking about, should you try to manifest an ex back? And the reason why I'm asking this question to you today is it fits very well into the theme of Valentine's Day. And the question itself is a very good example of focus when we're trying to manifest something. Now, in this case, I would argue that this is the wrong focus to have when you're trying to manifest true love. When you anchor too much into one person, whether or not you've been with them before and you become attached to that person and want a specific outcome with the person, that's when we usually run into trouble. That could even be true sometimes even when the person's legitimately our partner. If we become too obsessed or too possessive over the one partner, we can actually lose them. And so one of the reasons why guidance and intuition sometimes doesn't work when we're trying to ask a question, it's because we've asked the wrong question and we have too much attachment in that question. Now, that doesn't mean we can't ask for what we want in life. We can, but we need to frame the question correctly in order to get what we want. So what's underneath the question of trying to manifest an ex back? What is the real reason you're trying to get them back? Is it because you want revenge on them? Do you want to break up with them and make them suffer the way that they made you suffer? Or do you actually want true love in your life? So when we're trying to do things out of revenge or out of the wrong intention, it comes back to us negatively in an amplified manner. So if we're trying to get revenge on somebody, in a serious way, we're really going to cause more trouble and more hurt for ourselves than it's really worth. So that intention right there is the wrong one. But maybe we genuinely want love, but we're a little bit misguided about how to go about getting that love. And so we frame the question the wrong way. This is something that's easier to work with in manifestation. So if you really are genuinely searching for love, what you really need to do is let go of the attachment that it's going to come from a specific person and actually look for love from a variety of sources. And maybe it's not even restricted to romantic love. Maybe it's a good idea to look for love from your community and find ways to serve in your community and build relationships that way. And when you do that and you put your love out there in that way, you're actually more likely to bump into a person who's a good match for you energetically and manifest romantic love in your life. Or maybe you need to manifest more love by spending more time with your family. Maybe in the past you've had some conflicts, but maybe over time those conflicts have healed and it's a good idea to reconnect again and try to build a relationship again. Of course, keep in mind that you want to keep healthy boundaries if you've had problems with your family members in the past. But having said that, those long-term relationships, occasionally they can be so negative that you really can't keep them. But having said that, if there's any positive resonance in those relationships in your family, it's a good idea to try to maintain some sort of relationship and try to keep the bond going with your family. And they can give you a lot of love in ways that many people can't because they've known you the longest. And it's the same with old friendships. If they're really dragging you down and your friends are telling you to do the wrong thing, if they've never matured from childhood or young adulthood, then of course you may need to let them go. But if you can keep those relationships going in your life and you can provide support to them and they're willing to listen and you can have good times together, then maybe it's worth keeping the friendship and maintaining it. Of course, that's a very personal decision and you need to know when to let go. But having said that, we can also be quite judgmental at times and sometimes we cut people off too quickly. That's also something that people do as a mistake in their relationships at times, especially if they're feeling insecure. They may cut people off too quickly when it's not appropriate for them to do so. So instead of trying to manifest love from a specific person who's caused you pain or hurt, or somebody from your past who's probably not going to come back again, why not look for love in the people around you who can openly give it to you? And at best, you can always do this in your community. Even if you can't go to old friends or old family members, do it in your community. Find a place where you can volunteer and serve and meet people. When you give love in that capacity to your community, that's when you're likely to receive love in return. And sometimes you can do it in your workplace. Sometimes you can't because the workplace encourages kind of superficial relationships and keeping things professional, so it depends on the workplace you're at. But sometimes you can really bond and grow with your coworkers as well, depending on the nature of your workplace and what kind of profession you've picked for yourself. And if you haven't gotten a job, then maybe this is the time to start looking for one. Figure out ways you can serve and give love to a variety of employers who can use your services. Because when you're in that energetic state of being loving and willing to give love first, you're very likely to receive love in return. When we're being needy and we're trying to take love from others first and demand attention rather than give our love, then that's when we're more likely to run into problems. Now, having said that, for some people, depending on their station in life and who they are, it's better to have a passive approach to love. So the one situation where sometimes an ex does come back, and it's better not to focus on it, but when it sometimes happens, it's because we're in a passive state of love. Maybe we're in love with the hobbies and the communities that we're enjoying in our lives, and we're just in a really beautiful state of flow. And when we're in that natural state of harmony and we're not even thinking about the ex or how much pain they've caused, sometimes they do mysteriously pop back into your life. And that's when you have to make a decision if their offer is really good enough for you to continue with them, or if you should just remain broken up and remain as distant friends, if even that. You know, when exes do come back, it's because they realize what they've missed. And this has happened a few times in my life where they've tried to come back in. But usually when I've decided that somebody's a wrong fit for me, that's when I let them go and I don't communicate with them again. It doesn't mean that I don't like them or I want ill will, in their lives. I hope that they have happy lives. It's just that we're not an energetic match, and I've figured that out already, so there's no point in going back and reviewing that. And in the rare case, there was one time I got back with an ex. It was very interesting because I was in a very transformational phase of my life when I broke up, and I wondered if that had an effect on my decision and if it was worth giving it another shot. And what I discovered in that time was that usually my first instincts and my first impressions are correct, even in a very chaotic and turbulent time in my life, that I could really trust myself and my ability to make good, sound decisions, even when life was very chaotic and I was in a state of transformation, and that I'd actually gotten it right the first time and I shouldn't have let them back into my life. Now, that can depend on person to person and where you're at in your growth. Maybe you genuinely went through a bad state in your life when you were in a relationship and you broke up, and maybe you're in a more positive state now. And so when the person mysteriously pops back in and you've done everything right, it is worth a second chance. But I'd say those situations are pretty rare because a lot of people tend to stay the same. There are some of us that do change and transform, and if you're one of those people, that's when you might be an exception to the rule. But most of us live pretty stable, pretty ordinary lives, and we don't change that much, not that quickly. And so when exes come back, it's usually correct to leave them alone and not go back with them. But having said that, there are exceptions. It really depends. But one of the key focuses that I want to talk about in this video is when you're trying to manifest love, when you're trying to manifest something beautiful in your life, you don't want to become attached to the past or hook up or get hooked on a person from your past that you'd had a relationship with coming back into your life. You also don't want to get too attached to somebody who's presently in your life. Maybe you haven't had a relationship before, but you do have an intense crush on them. That's also probably not a very good place to start because you're already too attached in the first place. And then when you're attached, you're willing to accept lower standards of behavior from them because you're so desperately wanting them to be your partner that you don't care if they behave badly, when it really should be the opposite. You should be very neutral with people and accept the people who treat you the best. That is the way to go about relationships. And it shouldn't really matter. Sometimes people get very hung up on they have to be my race or my religion or have the same interests as me. And those things can be good. Like you can build more of a friendship when you have more in common. Having said that, if you're too attached to those things and the person treats you badly, it doesn't really matter if you have those things in common. You really need to go for the person who treats you the best, regardless of their race, religion, or their interests. And they can be completely different from you, but if they treasure you and they cherish you and they treat you like the best partner they've ever had, then that's the person you should go with. And you shouldn't really settle for anything less if you're going to go for a romantic relationship. Otherwise, it's just not worth it these days. Like, we can all be independent. We can all love ourselves really well. And some people will say that relationships are the biggest happiness of your life. They can be if it's right. But my opinion is you really shouldn't go for it unless it's really right for you. Otherwise, it's better to be single and just leave it alone. So I hope you enjoyed my little talk on manifesting for Valentine's Day and why it's probably not the wisest thing to focus on manifesting an ex. And if you have any comments about that, if you have any stories to share about exes coming back or how you dealt with it, that would be interesting to see in the comments below. I hope you're all getting ready to have an amazing Valentine's Day, whether it's for your own self-love or the love of another. There's no wrongs in that, and I hope you enjoy Valentine's Day your way very soon. Have an amazing week and take care. Bye now.